Welcome to Mountain View, California. We are located just 10 miles north of San Jose, California, California's first city, and 40 miles south of San Francisco, the second largest city in California. This is Black History Month, and we wanted to do something very special to show that we have been a part of the community for quite some time. This short film will give you information we found in our own Mountain View Library in the Pioneer Room. It gives you some historical information that I never knew existed. We go back into this community starting in 1895, and we're going to start there. We decided to title this film, We Were Here Too. The first documentation we have of African Americans in this community is here at Pioneer Park, located on the corner of Castro Street and Church. Pioneer Park was formerly the Mountain View Cemetery. In the documentation, the records show a woman who was listed as colored who died at the age of 24 of heart failure. Her name was Mrs. Sarah Callis.
The Mountain View Register, the town's newspaper at the time, dated August 3, 1895, listed the obituary of Sarah Callis. Old Mountain View Cemetery records listed her as a colored woman who died of heart failure at the age of 25. Her aunt, Mrs. Crawford, who she was staying with in Mountain View, sent a note to friends thanking them for their sympathy. Mrs. Crawford also appeared in this edition. Mountain View was a growing community that was no longer a rest stop between San Francisco and San Jose. People were coming for the rich farmlands and orchards, and the railroad station was now a place to stop and find a home. Many families were moving here from the South and Midwest, where farming was a way of life. The population of Santa Clara County in 1852 listed over 6,000 residents. Included were 53 black men, 39 black women, and 3 mulattoes, or mixed race. Mountain View was growing, and growing fast. African Americans came not only to Mountain View, but to Palo Alto, Menlo Park, Woodside, Redwood City, and Mayfield, a small town that was later absorbed into Mountain View. These maps show how the community was quickly changing. This photograph is the Mountain View Grammar School class of 1899. It shows that all the children went to school together. These children seem to be of all backgrounds, races, and economic status. Now this is Clara Halsey Tech. On the back of this picture are names of the children with the check marks above their heads. The black child at the end was named Faye Crawford. It was written that Faye Crawford's job was to beat a drum every morning at 9 a.m. to call class to session. But Faye busted so many drums calling class that the town's blacksmith finally made him a metal triangle to ring. All through this era of the 1890s and 1900s, it appears that all children were educated in integrated schools, as you see the young black child on the left. The Mountain View Register published many of the death notices of African Americans in the community. You can tell that many of them were very well respected. It was printed in the 1936 Mountain View Register death notice for George Coleman. If all people in the world were as good as old George Coleman was, this would be a lot better place. The ways of the Old South were also moving west. Times started changing and many African Americans left Mountain View and went to Palo Alto, where the black population was quickly increasing. The age of the automobile was changing the way people were living, but so did segregation. In 1938, Arthur Gray was one of the few blacks at Mountain View High School. His brother, Zane Gray, was also there and played in the high school band. Their great-great-grandfather was a former slave from North Carolina who had moved to Palo Alto in 1877. Luther Hall moved to California from Mississippi by way of Detroit in the early 1950s. He tells his story.
I come to Mountain View in 1956. I came to Mountain View because I come to California in 1955 and I picked up my first job in Palo Alto. And by moving to Mountain View, that put me closer to my job.
Okay. You bought a home here, you said, over in the old Shoreline area, a mobile home, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about that. What was the environment? What was it like in Mountain View for black people in 1956?
In 1956, I bought my first mobile home. I bought a mobile home because that's the type of home I always wanted. But I had a problem trying to get into a trailer court because trailer courts was not available to black people, but I didn't know that until I had already bought my mobile home, so I lived on private property.
So they didn't tell you when you bought the mobile home that this was for whites only?
No, they just told me, asked me where was I going to move it to, and I told them I was going to live on private property, so they left it at that.
Okay. And so when you got there, you found out you couldn't live there.
That's right.
What other, do you know any, were there a lot of other black people in Mountain View that you knew of?
I was told by someone before I came here that I was one of 10 black families in Mountain View. So evidently there must not have been but 9 black families here before I came.
And how did they treat you when you got here? Were they very nice to you?
Yeah, I was treated like anybody else. The only problem I had, racial problem I ever had, was a place to live.
Okay.
Because of living in a mobile home, yes.
Now tell me about your business. You've been here since when?
Well, I moved from Mountain View to San Jose to live, and I come back to Mountain View with my business 25 years ago. I've been set up right here in the same location.
Right here in the same location?
Same location.
And you learned your trade in Palo Alto?
No, I learned my trade back in Mississippi.
Okay, that's where you're originally from, right?
No, from Mississippi. And I left Mississippi and went to Detroit. And I really learned the whole thing in Detroit. I had the basics when I left Mississippi, but I learned the whole trade in Detroit. I lived there 5 years, and then I left Detroit and came to California.
Okay, and you originally lived in San Francisco.
Yes.
And why did you, now so you left San Francisco to come to a small community like this. What was wrong with San Francisco?
San Francisco was fine, but I didn't like the hills, and by me picking up my first job on this peninsula, I didn't like living up there in the hills. It was hard to find a place to park. The life was too fast for me. And when I picked up my first job down here, then this was the place for me. I like to live where I work where I live.
Okay. And we're going to see you around here a long time to come, right?
Well, I don't think I'm going to die soon. As long as I live, I'm going to be right here.
All right.
As long as I live, I plan to work.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Harris Ginyard is one of only 2 African American property managers in Santa Clara County. He has been in Mountain View for 20 years.
First of all, I arrived in Mountain View, it would be 20 years ago, February 9th of this year. I came out to visit my uncle, who was, at the time, was a teacher in the school system of Palo Alto, he just recently retired from that system. I knew nothing about California. I had never been here, so I came out to visit to see for myself.
And Mountain View was the first place you came to?
The very first place I came to.
Okay.
And I spent about 2 weeks just touring the areas. Found that I liked it, and I've never gone back to the East Coast.
Now,
except to resign my position that I had there and to pack and to come back.
Come back.
Yeah.
Well, you know, this is a documentary, a short film we're doing about African Americans in Mountain View, and the history of for Black History Month this year. And what are the changes that you've kind of seen in this community since you've been here?
Over those 20 years, believe it or not, when I first arrived, Mountain View was still largely agricultural.
Really?
There are a lot of orchards along Central Expressway, the Route 237 corridor.
So we're talking about 1975?
1977.
77,
yes.
Okay.
And over these 20 years, we've seen just about all of that disappear, and the building of large high-tech firms, which has been good for the city of Mountain View, I might add. The town of Mountain View still captures my heart. It's a very quiet town. It's a very safe town.
And what have you found different about between San Jose and Mountain View and San Francisco?
I guess basically at heart I'm still a small town kind of person.
And you came out here from North Carolina, right?
No, I grew up in North Carolina, but I had lived in New York 10 years before I came out here.
Quite a difference.
Quite a difference.
Quite a difference.
Culture shock. Big transition.
And the community as a whole. What has happened? What's changed since you came here?
Since I arrived?
Since you arrived here in '77.
Oh, we've seen 101 become a major highway. We've seen the growth of Silicon Valley in terms of high-tech firms, lots of construction, which has been very positive for the entire Bay Area.
One of the things I found that this community has been very positive toward ethnic groups, particularly in Mountain View.
Particularly in Mountain View.
I think we've changed a lot. I think we got a long way to go.
We've got, yes.
But what are some of those things that you think that has changed, and what do you think we have a long way to go on?
I think the fact that the city government is aware now that we exist in this town. For years, we were less than 1% of the population.
Right.
So there was not the focus or the emphasis on African Americans. And the fact that we do exist in large numbers in this town. Then I think the city fathers and mothers have graciously opened their doors, if you will, to us, and allowed us to exist in peace and harmony. And I'm always ready, willing, and able to do whatever I can to further the positive aspects of African Americans. We get so much negative press. It's very good that we can finally get some positive press, because there are hundreds of thousands of us in the Bay Area doing very positive things for our communities. It's interesting that you say that it said a colored woman.
Yes.
And how we've progressed over the years from colored to Negro to black and now African American. And I still question, why is there a need for us to have these labels after all these years?
In America, we started everything, you know. So I don't know. It doesn't matter. We're all Americans. We were all born here.
That's right.
So
born and raised.
Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. It's my pleasure.
Priscilla Vaughn is the owner of Discount Beauty Supply. She has been located in Mountain View for 4 years. Her store carries hair care and casual clothing items marketed towards African Americans. In her business location on Moffett Boulevard, she says she rarely sees blacks in the community.
This is Charlene Scott. Charlene has been a 30-year Mountain View resident and also a business owner in downtown Mountain View with House of Styles. Charlene, you moved to Mountain View when?
In 1966.
And you moved here from?
Palo Alto.
Palo Alto. What was it about Mountain View that you liked?
Well, mostly we was looking for a home for our children, a safe neighborhood, and we found it very nice.
Good. How have you found the community since you've been here? Since this is a documentary about black history and black people that have been in the community a long time, we wanted to spotlight people like yourself who know that, I don't know if you know this, but the first black people recorded in history month were in 1895.
Oh.
And so we've been here a long time.
Yeah, we have. I found the people very nice. We've been here for about 30 years now. And I don't get to mingle with the neighbors very much because I work. Mm-hmm. And my children grew up in the neighborhood.
Did they go to school here too?
My oldest daughter went to Mountain View School, Springer School, until 5th grade, and then after that I placed them in private schools because I was working away from home, and I wanted them to go to private school, and I was concerned about their math. But other than that, the neighborhood is nice. Okay.
How long have you been, one, you're a hairstylist, and my mother also is a hairdresser also. But you've got House of Styles here in downtown Mountain View. How long have you been in business here?
I've been in business here for 12 years. The other years I worked in Palo Alto.
Well, I'm glad to see you, and I'm sure everybody will now know that House of Styles, Charlene Scott. So thank you very much for spending a little few minutes with us.
Thank you.
My name is Arthur Jones, and I've been a resident of Mountain View for over 20 years. I've seen a lot of changes in that 20 years. I've seen changes in the demographics as far as Mountain View is concerned. I see a lot more blacks that live in Mountain View now than when I originally came here. I also see some very positive things about Mountain View. The downtown area, revitalization of that, I think that's a wonderful addition. I think they did it real well when they were making those changes. But also, I also see overcrowding happening in the city. Not only in the city, but in surrounding areas as far as the freeways and congestion is concerned. I work for a labor union, and I work basically out of my home so I don't have to commute every day, and I feel sorry for those who do. And I would hate to be out there every day, doing that thing, trying to get through that maze, especially the maze around 85. It really, really needs something done to that, as quick as possible. It's really a mess. A lot of accidents happen there.
What do you think the community's reaction is toward having African American community?
Well, I think it's probably the same as any other area around here. They prefer not to.
Wait, they would prefer not to have.
They would prefer not to have African Americans in the neighborhood, but since they're here, I guess they're going to try to deal with them as best as possible.
What can the city do to try to improve that?
I think education is what's needed most of all. I mean, people don't know each other. We don't associate with each other in the same areas. We don't go to the same places. We don't even go to the same churches. And we basically don't know anything about each other. So the stereotypes in which we're grown up believing is the stereotypes in which we now feel is the truth of the matter.
But you're going to still live in Mountain View, right?
Oh, I'm going to be here. I'm not going anywhere soon. I like Mountain View. I enjoy Mountain View, and I don't have any problems here.
I'm standing here at University African Methodist Episcopal Church. This is recorded to be one of the oldest black churches in the community. If you'll look back at some of the historical documentations, there is a very good story about the cooperation of the black and white community, particularly in this area. This church was built with the help of very much the other churches that surround here. This has been called Church Row because there are a number of churches that are stretched right along this particular street of Middlefield Road. The story goes that this church, the parishioners of this church borrowed the money from the bank to build this facility. The churches surrounding this, with cooperation, had bake sales and yard sales and teas in order to help the African Americans who had taken out the mortgage on this church to pay off the mortgage. So with the cooperation resounding community, they did that. So I think it's a very good indication of the 20s and the 30s when this church and when the black residents and white residents were here, how they did this and how much cooperation, even though in segregated times, this came about. We're standing here at University AME Church in Palo Alto, formerly part of the Mountain View community.
ọmọdé. Ẹ jẹ́ ká yọ̀. Ẹ jẹ́ ká jó. Kele dumare kó ṣọ́ wa ká má fòfò láyé. Kárí ṣe àjẹjẹ kò tí fi ṣe yìn wá o. Káborí ọ̀tá wa níbi gbogbo. Kọ́mọdé tàgbà kó fẹ́ ti wá láyé. Àmì àṣà. Kele dumare kó ṣọ́ wa o. Níbi gbogbo. Ká má fòfò láyé o. Ẹlẹ́gbẹ́ mọ̀ wí yòó. Àwa nọ nílẹ̀. Ẹ jẹ́ ká yọ̀. Ẹ jẹ́ ká jó. Yes. Kele dumare kó ṣọ́ wa ká má fòfò láyé sẹ́. Kárí ṣe àjẹjẹ kó tí fi jẹ́ yìn wá Ẹlẹ́dùmarè. Káborí ọ̀tá wa níbi gbogbo. Kọ́mọdé tàgbà kó fẹ́ ti wá láyé. Àmì àṣẹ. Kẹ́lẹ́dùmarè kó ṣọ́ wa o. Níbi gbogbo. Ká má fòfò láyé o. Àwa nọ nílẹ̀. Oh yeah. Ẹ jẹ́ ká yọ̀. Whoa. Ẹ jẹ́ ká jó. Oh. Kẹ́lẹ́dùmarè kó ṣọ́ wa ká má fòfò láyé. Káborí òde ṣe kó tí fi ṣe yìn wá o. Káborí ọ̀tá wa níbi gbogbo. Kọ́mọdé tàgbà kó fẹ́ ti wá láyé. Àmì àṣẹ. Kẹ́lẹ́dùmarè kó ṣọ́ wa o. Níbi gbogbo. Ká má fòfò láyé o.
My grandfather was born a slave, but both he and my grandmother went to college and became teachers. As you can imagine, the power of education was made very clear to me. So, with the help of the college fund, I attended a historically black university, which prepared me for graduate school and other future challenges, like being married to this guy.
College also prepared me for the future.
Tours overseas, 22 moves in 33 years, camera crews in our house.
And opportunities we couldn't have had without degrees. But thousands of deserving kids can't afford college. Without the college fund, they'd miss the chance to become astronauts, doctors, artists, Army officers, anything they imagine. But you can help them fulfill their potential.
Please join Colin and me in supporting the college fund.
A mind is a terrible thing to waste. What do you mean, challenge?
We hope you have enjoyed this program. I'd like to thank the Mountain View Library and Pioneer Room for furnishing the photographs and newspaper clippings. Special thanks to everyone who volunteered to help us with this project. Happy Black History Month.